Right, the final thing I'm going to show you on here is how to delete a value which is on the sheet. Now for this here, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to record which row my values are in. So to do this, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to insert, I need to unprotect the sheet first before I can alter anything. I'm going to insert a row into my table here. Now this row here, I'm going to hide it in the end, but I'm just going to call it row number. I'll just call it row. And in this row number here, what I'm going to try and do is I need to record the number of which row is in here so that I can actually pick one to delete. Now to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a formula, and it simply equals row. And what that will do, if I format it correctly, just as a number, it will tell me I'm in row 2. I'm going to copy that into the rows that I could possibly want to delete. There we go. So I've got here rows 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do now is eventually, as I say, I will hide the whole of this column here. I'll just put it as a different colour so that we know that that's eventually going to be hidden away so the user can't see it. But I need that so I can pick which value I want. So I'm going to put it up here. Let's move this button across a little bit. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a delete button up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the user pick which number they want to delete. Now here what I've got is I've got 5 rows that I could possibly delete here, either 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight those row numbers 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and I'm going to give them a name, to delete. Press enter, and then the to delete value there will always highlight those particular numbers there. What I'm now going to do is in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the user pick which number to delete. So if I pick green here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my data validation. I'm going to make sure that in that there I've simply have got a list, and I'm going to make that list equal to, I think it was called to delete. If I'm not sure of the name, I can always use this little button here which allows me to select the value. Yes, it's called to delete. And then what I've got here, you can't quite see my little arrow there, but I've got a list there where I can select the number of the row that I want to delete. Let's just copy the formatting of that cell there by using my format painting, which is a very useful tool in there. And what I can also do now is I can hide that row. It's done its job there now, so I've got that row. Row C is hidden. It's got that list of numbers in there, so I can select which one of those 5 rows I want to delete. Now that number there is in H2, so H2 is going to select which one I want to delete. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a button which allows me to hopefully delete, in this case here, row 6. Now I already happen to have recorded this macro already to delete the values. You are going to need to create a new macro called delete, I've got one here that I've already done. And that's simply the code. All I need to do is I need to put in rows, brackets, range. In this case I've changed it slightly because H2 is the one which I need to change. Now what I also need to do on this here is I need to make sure that the worksheet is unprotected. So I'm going to copy across the application run. Let's plot that into there. And I'm also going to make sure that I protect the worksheet afterwards. So what this is doing, unprotecting the worksheet, I'm selecting the row number which is in the range H2, and I'm just putting .delete, which hopefully should run my macro to actually delete that piece of code. Let's close that down and see how that works. Let's give that a name. Let's call it delete. So I have row 6 selected. If I now click on delete, now I haven't assigned a macro to that, so let's click off there, assign a macro, and I need to assign delete to that macro, that's why it wasn't working. Click on OK. Now I've got my little hand so I can test that it's working. Should delete row 6, and this should be this one here with FDFS in, and as if by magic it's deleted. If I want to delete Joe, I select row number 7. Now it's protected at the minute, so what I need to do is I need to unprotect the sheet. Now I can select Joe in row 7 and delete it. Now it's a bit of a pain that I have to unprotect the sheet before I can select this cell, but one of the things you can do is if I unprotect the sheet and right click and I format that cell, you do have an option here called protection. Now currently that cell is locked. If I unclick that, what that means is that when I then protect that sheet, although I protected that sheet there, the cell which is unlocked remains unprotected, and you can see I've got my 3 values there which I can select if I want to. So if I wanted to select my name Paul from there, let's select number 8, let's click delete, and as if by magic that's hidden. So there we go, I've got my almost perfect input sheet on there, which only allows people to do it through pressing the button there, but also I've got an option to delete values that I've got in there.